99% of athletes never fulfill their potential, and it's their own fault. As a mental performance coach to pro athletes, I've seen time and time again one key thing that most athletes sleepwalk into, something that guarantees failure and endless missed opportunities. And usually by the time they try to fix it, it's already too late. So if you don't want to waste your career and chances of making it to the highest level, then keep watching, because this is going to be the wake-up call that you probably weren't expecting. So let's get started. Right, so what is this career-ruining mistake that you're probably making right now? Well, let's take a moment to watch this video of the footballer Jesse Lingard in January 2024, a time in which he had been a free agent for 6 months after leaving Premier League side Nottingham Forest in the summer of 2023.
You coming out? No. Got a drink? No. Parties? Nah, bruh. Alcohol? No, thanks. Training? Yep. Gym? Yep. Family? Yep. Football? Yep. Bro, it's all mindset. You get your mind right, body right, spiritually, mentally, physically. I'm a beast, bruh. Beast!
Now, of course, everything he says is on point. You can't really disagree with what comes out of his mouth. The problem is, he only realized these things at the age of 31. And now his career is fizzling out in South Korea, where his coach has publicly called him out for a perceived lack of effort. The point is, as an athlete, you will never fulfill your potential unless you make true sacrifice. True sacrifice doesn't mean not going to parties for one summer. It doesn't mean doing extra individual training when you're without a team. And it doesn't mean missing a couple of important family events here and there. Unless you're a freak natural talent, then the level of sacrifice that you have to make to achieve your biggest sporting dreams has to make the everyday person think you're crazy. And despite what you're thinking, I can almost guarantee that you're not really making true sacrifice at this point in time. And so for the rest of this video, I want to help you get really clear on exactly what true sacrifice is and how you can start making it. And this is not meant to be a motivational video. Those don't work. They hype you up for like 5 minutes and then you fall back into complacency. Instead, I want to give you a proper framework for being able to make sacrifices for years and years on end, perhaps even decades, so that you can actually achieve what you want to achieve in sport. Now, when it comes to sacrifice, I think a big misconception people have is that it involves suffering and is painful. But that's not what true sacrifice is at its core. Instead, it's about simply the prioritization of what matters most. True sacrifice is about making the conscious decision to avoid certain activities, comforts, and even relationships to focus on your long-term goals. And it's also about doing things that are unappealing in order to give yourself the best chance of reaching those long-term goals. But what most athletes forget is that many parts of your sacrifice are actually fun. Getting to play, practice, and train in the sport that you love for hours on end every single week. Although you're training hard and pushing yourself to the limit, it's still enjoyable. And if you don't lean into that fun side, then the not so fun parts of sacrifice become much less bearable, and you will likely quit or not take them seriously until it's too late. You have to form the connection in your mind that the less fun parts often fuel the fun parts. So being super strict with your diet and going to bed at 10 p.m. even on weekends, that's what gives you optimal energy to perform your best when you're training, practicing, and playing competitions. That's why Ronaldo, Brady, LeBron, all these guys who have had insane longevity have managed to make true sacrifice for at least 20 years each. So the first step to making true sacrifice is to give the term a makeover. The athlete who says to himself, I have to go practice at 6 a.m. is not going to stick things out in the long term compared to the athlete who says to himself, I get to practice at 6 a.m. This is the heart of lesson 30 from my peak performance guide, Winning Thoughts. So if you want 49 other lessons that will help you become the best athlete you can possibly be, then check that out in the description. It's 100% completely free. But generally when we think of the term sacrifice, our mind instinctively goes to the things that we're missing out on, all the comforts in life. Again, the parties, the staying up late, the junk food, the video game marathons, whatever. But those who are able to consistently make sacrifices for years on end get to a place where the term becomes associated with things that they're gaining. Because again, sacrifice is about prioritization. That means you're choosing one thing over another, and after you've made your choice, you don't even think about the other thing. Consider the swimmer Michael Phelps, the most decorated Olympian of all time. Between the ages of 13 and 18, he did not miss a single training session for 5 years straight, even training on Christmases, birthdays, and all other holidays. One of the reasons he was able to do this was because he didn't see himself as missing out on those things. Instead, he was gaining other more desirable things like fitness, technique, experience. In his mind, the term sacrifice was a positive word, whereas most athletes, even many pros who try to make sacrifices, see this as a negative word. So the choice is yours. You can either choose to keep viewing sacrifice as this negative burden that makes you miserable and that you're missing out on loads of stuff. Or you can choose to see it as this positive opportunity to fully embrace because it narrows your focus onto things that really matter to you. But even once you make this first mindset shift, that doesn't mean that making true sacrifice is easy. So how can you start to fully embrace true sacrifice and stick with it on an ongoing basis? Well, let's run through 3 super practical things that any athlete can do. Tip number 1 is to engage in aversive conditioning. This is a psychological technique, and what it basically means is that you want to condition yourself into perceiving the things that you're sacrificing as negative, damaging, or even harmful to you and the pursuit of your goals. And the simplest way of doing this is what I call 10 reasons why. So when met with temptation of something that threatens your progress or commitment to your athletic pursuits, take a moment to write down 10 reasons why it's a terrible idea to engage with that temptation. So say, for example, there's a huge house party. Everyone's going, your friends are saying, just come, you can miss 1 day of training. You need to come up with 10 reasons why going to that party is a bad idea. So it may be you'll stay up till 4 a.m. and your sleep and training for the rest of the week will be terrible. You'll drink too much and then only crave junk food the next day and then not even bother training. You could slip on the kitchen floor when dancing and break your ankle. Or you might end up getting a lift home with a drunk driver and they crash. And so on and so on. The point is, the more negatives you associate with actually going to the party, the less tempting it is to go. And therefore it becomes easier to sacrifice that social opportunity. Because when making sacrifices, sometimes you need to use a blast of logic to extinguish the emotional appeal of something. And the more reasons you can come up with to not do something, the weaker the emotional appeal of it becomes. So aside from making things you're sacrificing unappealing, you then also need to make the thing you're pursuing ultra appealing. And that's why tip number 2 is to find your North Star. Your North Star is what guides you. It keeps you on the right pathway despite the endless hurdles, setbacks, or sidestepping off course every now and then. It's your true purpose for pursuing success in a discipline where the odds are stacked way against you. And the clearer that North Star, the easier it is to lock in, focus, and stick to the plan, even for many years on end without success. Specifically, your North Star has to be a hyper-specific moment that you can deeply visualize, and every single time you do so, you get a strong emotional reaction. So for many athletes, they might think of this as going pro, but that's not hyper-specific enough. Instead, it should be holding the pen to sign my first ever pro contract with my parents standing either side of me. And once you have that North Star, you need to keep revisiting it, spending 5 to 10 minutes visualizing that moment every single day before you have to practice or train. And make this as multi-sensory as possible. That's what makes visualization truly effective. So imagine what the pen feels like in your hand, the scratching sound it makes as you sign the paper, the hand of your dad squeezing your shoulder just after you've put the pen down, and hearing your mum's voice say, "We're so proud of you." Because when it comes to true sacrifice, you can only stay the course if you have an important enough cause. And it doesn't matter what that cause is, as long as it's the most important thing in the world to you. It might be the weight and feel of a gold medal being placed around your neck, or it might be the sight of seeing your bank balance after your first paycheck as a pro. Either of these is valid. It depends on what deep down is really driving you to succeed. Just ask yourself, what is the moment I'm chasing? But I get it, true sacrifice is still difficult, even if you make what you're sacrificing unappealing and get crystal clear on that special North Star moment. Almost every other day, there are internal battles to keep persisting, particularly when your dreams may still be many years away. How do you keep winning those battles? Well, the final tip, which is super powerful, is to third person it. This point is all about referring to yourself in the third person through self-talk, to hold yourself accountable and to fight off the temptations or desire to give up and not put in full effort. What this technique does is create psychological distance between you and your immediate emotions, making it easier to think rationally and make decisions aligned with your long-term goals. So to start implementing this, you need to follow 3 steps. Firstly, identify temptations and challenges. Start by recognizing the situations where you typically struggle with making sacrifices. These could be moments of temptation, such as choosing to go out with friends or staying in to rest for an early morning training session. Then secondly, you want to prepare your third person script. Develop a script that you can use in these moments. This script should include addressing yourself by your name and giving yourself advice of encouragement as if you would to a friend. For example, "Sam, remember how important this training session is for your progress." After this, you then want to practice regularly. Integrate that third person self-talk into your daily routine. Practice it during training, competitions, and even during mundane tasks. The more you use it, the more natural it will become. And don't get me wrong, when you first start trying this out, it will feel weird, uncomfortable, or maybe even a little cringe. But over time, you see the benefits of distancing from yourself. You hold yourself to a higher standard. You find it easier to push through the hard stuff and say no to the bad stuff. It becomes like giving advice to a friend, because Think about it for a second. You're probably someone who encourages your friends a lot when they're struggling or wanting to not go all in on something. So why don't you show up for yourself in the same way? Third-person self-talk gives you that opportunity to become your own best friend and give yourself that same level of encouragement rather than feeling guilty, uninspired, or hopeless during the times where true sacrifice feels its most difficult. So good luck on your journey to making true sacrifice. One other thing that makes sticking to this difficult is the inevitable rejections that all athletes face at some point in their careers. So to help you better deal with these, then check out this next video here.